Now we'll move on to discuss the different cell types that make up the nervous system, beginning with neurons, including the anatomy of a neuron as well as the different classifications. This image depicts the structure of a typical neuron. The nucleus is contained in the cell body or soma. Attached to it are the many dendrites as well as a single axon. At the end of the axon are the terminal boutons where the junctions are, or synapses. The neuron is specialized for receiving signals. It receives information at the dendrites and the cell body. It propagates electrical impulses down the axon and transmits signals at the terminal branches. The cell body or soma of a neuron. Inside the cell body is the nucleus and other organelles, and it's responsible for protein production, including the production of neurotransmitters. The soma contains organelles such as other cells of the body, including mitochondria for energy production, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and Golgi apparatus. The dendrites of a neuron make up a dendritic tree around the soma. This is the afferent region where the majority of information flows into the neuron cell body. Dendrites are present at synapses, along with axons from another neuron. Dendrites contribute to the primary unidirectional flow of a nerve impulse. This occurs because dendrites do not secrete neurotransmitters, and therefore they can only receive nerve impulses. Also attached to the neuron cell body is the axon. This cable-like projection travels between the soma of a neuron and the dendrites of the next neuron. The axon contains microfilaments and microtubules, which are involved in vesicle traffic along the length of the axon. Nerve impulses travel along axons between multiple neurons. Some neurons contain a myelin sheath surrounding the axon. The myelin is made up of glial cells, and the myelin increases the velocity of nerve impulse conduction. At the distal end from the neuron cell nucleus are the terminal boutons. These are extensions of the axon that are part of the synaptic terminals. The extensions are the path that a neuron uses to send information to another neuron or a target organ or muscle. The synapse is the site of communication between neurons, or between a neuron and its target. This image depicts the anatomy of a synapse. There's a presynaptic cell and a postsynaptic cell or target. In the presynaptic cell are vesicles which contain the neurotransmitter. The terminal boutons of one neuron synapse with another neuron to form a synaptic terminal. The synapse contains a gap where neurotransmitters cross. This is in order to transmit the neural signal from one neuron to another. The following is a clinical note on rabies. Rabies is a viral disease that affects the nervous system in mammals. The rabies virus, which is a lysovirus, is responsible for the symptoms of paralysis, flu-like symptoms, and eventually encephalitis. The virus reaches the central nervous system through the peripheral nervous system. Retrograde flow within the peripheral nervous system facilitates its entry into the brain and spinal cord. The progression of rabies infection can be limited or halted by the injection of immunoglobulin and administering the rabies vaccine. However, these measures have been shown to be beneficial in humans within 10 days of initial exposure to rabies. The classification of neurons based on structure, specifically cell polarity. This classification scheme includes unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Most of the body's sensory neurons are unipolar in their structure. Smell and taste neurons are bipolar, and motor neurons and interneurons in the brain and spinal cord are multipolar structure. There is also anaxonic neurons. These are special neurons that have no obvious dendrite or axon. They're found in the central nervous system and in special organs of sense such as the nose. Neurons can also be classified based on their function. This classification includes afferent neurons, motor neurons, and interneurons. They are depicted in this image. Afferent neurons receive information and deliver it to the central nervous system. Interneurons transmit that through the central nervous system and to other efferent neurons, which carry the motor impulses out to the target. Afferent neurons transmit nerve impulses into the central nervous system. An example are sensory neurons. The axons of a sensory neuron are long and extend from the sensory receptor in the periphery to the spinal cord or brain. Motor neurons are efferent neurons, and they transmit nerve impulses from the central nervous system to the periphery. They modify the activity of an organ or muscle in the periphery. The peripheral nervous system has two efferent divisions, the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. The third group are the interneurons. Interneurons connect neurons with specific regions in the central nervous system. They lie entirely in the central nervous system, and they connect the incoming afferent neuron with the outgoing motor neuron. They're the most numerous type of neurons in the human body. They can be classified as either excitatory or inhibitory. Interneurons can be inhibitory or excitatory. Excitatory neurons activate or excite their target. An example are spinal neurons, which synapse onto muscle cells and excite those muscles into action. Inhibitory neurons inhibit or block the output of their targets. Interneurons are usually inhibitory in their action. There are certain regions of the brain, such as the cerebellum, which function by inhibiting other brain regions.